Another quarantine episode where I have nothing to talk about.
I have shit to say.
Sick.
He is the wind, she is the wave, and together they make up the band they call the wind and the wave. They're not related, they're best buds, they're BFFs for life, hashtag BBIT dubs. It's the Dwight and Patty Show. The Dwight and Patty Show. It's the Dwight and Patty Show.
It's Dwight.
And Patty.
What's up?
Okay. Hi.
Welcome to episode 6 of the Dwight and Patty Show podcast. Presented by the Wind and the Wave, episode season 2, you know, all that stuff.
All that stuff.
And we have a guest today coming on here in a moment,
Yep.
which must be very exciting for the people that have been requesting guests.
Have there been many of those?
Since season 2, there's been none.
Oh.
What
Requests?
Yes, there has been. Did you have something you wanted to talk about that is outside of what our guest is about?
Just this idea that I want to be perfect and I can't.
Well, I mean, isn't that the oldest conversation with you of all time? I mean, hello.
That's one of them. Yeah. It's fine.
Let me tell you this. So yesterday, while working on the Corona Sessions, Wind and Wave Record 4,
Mm-hmm.
I started to work on, which was originally the first idea I sent you to start this record. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
You remember that song?
No, wait.
It's called At the End of the Day. That was
Oh,
the
yeah,
first
yeah,
record.
yeah.
That song has been trashed and will never be heard by anyone again.
Oh. Okay. What brought you there?
And I was really angry that I was not able to execute my job yesterday. And I thought for a second that perhaps it was because I cannot do music anymore. and all the things that one thinks, you know, when they're not good at the thing that they're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
And then I opened the other one, which is tentatively
The Possibilities one.
Working title Possibilities, and was going down a similar path. Because the problem with the other one is we've done that song, and I've done that songs like that for us so many times, and I just don't care about it at all. So I can't get myself to work on, even though I could probably sit there and force myself to get it done. I know what it's going to sound like in the end.
That's not exciting.
It's just, I don't know how people do that. I can't do that. I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. So the first 3 songs work towards where I'm headed, which is what I figured out yesterday at the end of the day with a drum beat and a piano part, which is a completely different version of Possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, I want to feel, and the other tracks work. They're working for me. I listened back to make sure that the
For
jazz
sure.
one and they make me feel good.
They excite me.
They make me feel good.
Yeah.
Do you see what I said there?
They make me feel good. Yeah.
Remember that playlist I sent you?
Yes.
That's the record I have to make.
Yeah.
I figured it out yesterday. I can't do anything that makes me feel quiet or sad or slow. Or I can't.
We don't need that.
I have to
in
do.
our life right now.
I don't. I don't even
Yeah.
really care if anyone else needs
I
it.
get it.
I don't. So I made this really happy song yesterday out of Possibilities, and it's so fun and so much better. So
Can't wait to hear it. So
you'll be looking forward to that. All that to say that we're all not perfect,
I know.
and things happen, and I listened to your first episode, which is what you're talking about.
Yes, I'm talking about
the Feelings Club.
So last
And
night I recorded the first episode with Sally of the Feelings Club podcast. Maybe.
And it's good. And it's good. And I gave it a B-, and a B- is a solid grade. and I think people are really going to like it.
You are a very
And
harsh critic. I just felt like I was flailing about. Like,
you did a few times.
yeah.
Where you flailed is when you said things like,
Right.
so what else?
Right. I know.
That's the things that you can't say. So what else?
It's like,
if you don't have anything else to say, move on to the emails or whatever it is, because you had that right after that.
I know. When I have a moment of silence and I'm trying to organize my thoughts, but I'm not looking at like a note or anything, I'm like just like looking, just like searching in the darkness.
Well, I thought of a funny thing. I thought that you could, whenever you have your searching in the darkness thing, you need to record me on your mic. You just going, feelings, 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 and I'll just put reverb on it, and that'll happen whenever you have nothing to say.
I should have like sound effects and things loaded into my phone and just like press them whenever I need them. That's what I would like to happen. Can we make that happen?
We can make that happen. It's called.
I also want you to come over to
my
house and like look at my setup and like, not make it perfect, but improve upon what I have. Tell me what I need to buy.
It's pretty good.
I think
Is Jeff trying to? Okay, I know. Well, let's do that ticketed show and make a little money together. That'd be nice. And then I need you to come sing these demos over here in the Cludio. Yeah. Is Jeff trying to get on here yet?
No, but I think he will momentarily.
Okay, so I'll just introduce him, and then hopefully he'll sign on soon after that. So you watched the new Missio documentary.
I did. I finally watched it.
Which I am in a lot, and you were in briefly.
Mm-hmm.
Not too much, right? You liked your appearance, right? It's good.
Yeah, I prefer this part where I'm singing and not the part where I'm talking to them.
I like it.
But you're right. I do look a little cute, kind of cute. Yeah.
So Jeff Ray, who directed that, is a writer, director, editor, and he's an incredible editor. I mean, he does all those things well, but fuck, he's really good at editing. He has directed music videos for a variety of artists, including Sigur Rós, Third Eye Blind, Scotty McCreery, Blue October, Wheeler Walker Jr., and so many more. And when he says many more, I'm assuming he means the fucking Wind and the Wave, which he's done maybe 11 videos for.
Not worth mentioning.
Which we're gonna have to talk to him about that.
Mm-hmm.
In 2019, Jeff finished his first feature-length music documentary for the duo Missio, and is currently developing his first narrative feature as a writer-director, and which he's been working on for a while, and we'll talk to him about.
Okay.
I think it's really hard to get features off the ground, and I'd like to talk to him about that, because if anyone deserves a feature, it's him, for sure.
Well, here he is. Let me.
We got him.
Got him in here.
We got him here. Hey, is your audio working?
Hello.
There he is.
Hey.
What's up, dude?
Whoa, this is weird. I've never done this before.
You've never been on a video call?
No, I haven't. I don't have a real job, Patty.
Jeff's an old school analoger, so he does everything face to face. So his career is now fucked.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. How are you guys holding up?
We're holding up well. I just did your amazing intro. You don't listen to our podcast. Let me go ahead and guess.
It's fine.
That's true.
His girlfriend has a podcast too, so he probably doesn't listen to that one either.
Look, I got a lot of podcasts. I know a lot of people who do a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, but not like ours. And so the first thing you need to know about our podcast is when you come on our podcast, you have to say 3 compliments about me. Now, you may also compliment Patty. We don't recommend it, but you may. So go ahead, say 3 nice things about me. Go.
Well, the beard is looking fantastic.
Thanks.
So I'll say that right now. You make me laugh from time to time.
I make you laugh all the time.
That's true. But a lot of it's forced. And then that hat's okay, I guess.
Those are all terrible compliments, Jeff. You're off to a terrible start. And now we have another bone to pick with you.
Uh-huh.
So in your bio, which you admittedly say is a piece of shit, and it kind of is, because it doesn't say half the things that you've done that are amazing. You say a bunch, okay, listen. You say a bunch of really cool bands that you've done videos for, and then you say, and many more.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're included in many more.
Any more.
Right.
Explain yourself. Go ahead.
Who did I name check?
Sigur Rós, Blue October, Wheeler Walker.
I don't even know who that is.
Scotty. Country guy, Scotty McCreery. It's fine, but why not the Wind and the Wave? Who,
I do know. It's something I kind of wanted to talk about.
He knows now.
I know because what I wanted to say to you is like, I think it's so strange how the two of you have like intersected in my life in pivotal ways at very pivotal moments. Like I remember when we did that first EPK thing out in West Texas, like
that's some of the coolest stuff ever.
Like Patty, like I'm pretty sure I've told you, Dwight, but Patty, do you realize like that's kind of where everything started for me? Like was that single was the
and Patty.
The two of you in a room together. I rarely get to see the two of you interact, and now that I'm seeing it together, I'm like the egos must just be off the charts.
Well, we like each other a lot, and we like ourselves a lot as well. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that first thing. Do you remember having dinner? Explain to me how that happened, because I was actually trying to. Matt asked me, Fromissio asked me how we came together on that, because you and I knew each other. You directed some stuff for bands I had done, but we'd never really connected. You were just working on the same bands I was working on, like Blue October, and I was on a Blue October record.
And then Patty's former band.
Right.
Soldier Thread, and I did stuff with you and Zeely, right?
Oh yeah, was that before?
Yeah, which I did that tune too. Yeah, that's before.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So Zeely was before that. So Patty and I had actually
maybe I was the connector. Worked,
I think so, because Patty, we've worked together a lot. It doesn't. I don't know. Maybe it's different.
It's been a while. It's been a minute. But yeah.
It's been a minute. Yeah. But so wait. So. But didn't you reach out, Dwight? Didn't you reach out to me?
We went to dinner, and we had a really long dinner where we discussed art.
Yeah.
Was that the first time you guys met?
Yeah.
What was your first impression?
It was the first time we had met and actually together
like
sat
a
down.
One-on-one.
I'm curious what your first impressions were, Jeff.
A lot of people say that Dwight's a straight shooter, and that's part of his charm. And I hate to jump on that bandwagon, but it's true. Like one of the reasons I like working with him so much is that he'll tell me if something sucks, and which is you would hope. I don't know, because you're such a straight shooter about it, but you don't mince words, and yet I've been around you when you've been working with other people. I've never seen anyone get mad at you because of that. You have this way of doing it that's
he's a master manipulator.
Yeah. My wife calls me a lovable asshole, and I prefer that.
That's honestly kind of what it is. And I walked away from it being like, well, because you had sent me the music already by that point.
Yes.
And I just really loved the music. And then I had met you a couple of times, and I think I know I'd met you at least once before, because you had offered me some advice before I did the Blue October video and just how to navigate that, which ended up being very helpful in the back end of it, like on how to navigate through those waters. And it ultimately made it a very pleasurable experience. But yeah, and then I don't know, like just the way you talk about art, I jive with in a very, I think we're very like-minded. Where you're just like, I want to do some real honest shit.
Yeah, I think my thing is I was trying to explain this to Matt. I hired you and wanted to work with you because I liked the way you made things look.
Mhm.
But it always looked like to me that you had to do things within the confines of what people wanted.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hire you under the confines of here's the songs and go.
And go.
Yeah. And it's very strange because I still those moments of like absolute creative freedom are very few and far between still, you know, because that's just kind of the nature of the beast when you're working with major labels and things like that. So, you know, that was liberating, and not in an egotistical way, but like I think it's one of the reasons why it turned out so well, you know.
No, I 100% agree. I don't understand hiring an artist. For instance, even hiring an interior designer that you love their design work on other homes,
Mm-hmm.
and then going, I don't like that idea.
Right.
It's like you're hiring them for
what they do, for their aesthetic,
their vision, for their scope, right? You know.
So why micromanage them?
Right, and I think that's why that stuff turned out so good. Which Patty put some links to that in our Patreon because it is incredible stuff.
But maybe that's also why it was somewhat of a launching point for Jeff.
I think so, because
someone trusted you.
Well, just someone saw it who actually was in charge of other bands, and they were like, I want you to do that. And then, you know,
it was validating.
It was very validating, and it was the first time that I was getting paid really well to do it. Like,
I also wonder, did we edit a lot? Did we give you notes, or were we just like, that's awesome?
No, because that was one of the, you know, like, I've done a lot of videos. Like, I've done a lot of videos since we did that one. And I can probably count on one hand the times where I've delivered something and I'm like, that's it. You know, like, I'm like, if they have notes, I'll listen to them, but that's it. And I think I knew when I sent that, I was like, that's fucking really badass. And not badass. I was just like, it was very moving to me.
Well, your edits on it are fucking flawless. They're so good.
When I just remember two things. I remember filming the hotel. Is that husband and wife that you're singing in the hotel room, or is that every other Sunday morning?
It's that every other Sunday morning.
I remember filming that and getting. It was one of those times. It's happened a couple times where I'll be filming an artist and like you can feel it in the room, you know, where you're like, oh, that was something. That was something.
Those pure vibes.
Yeah, pure vibes that you're not like. We're not going to get that on a take two. And I hoped that was going to come across in the edit, and I felt like it really, really did. And then the other big thing was that I remember I kept pestering you to like light a guitar on fire, and you kept telling me no. And you're like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why would I do that? And I was like, I don't know, but like it was like a visual ad in my head. And then I remember putting that on top, like in that sequence at the end.
Yeah, and we ended up doing that back in Austin outside the studio.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I remember dropping that in, and I remember getting just chills all over my body. And I was like, that's it. And I think I started there, and then I worked backward, and then I did the rest of the video to build to that, because I was like, well, if I can get there, then.
You are. It taught me some lessons too, in the same way that when I've worked with Bob or whatever, it taught me a lot of things because of his freedom of exploring. You are a guy that goes, stop the car, stop right here. And I'm like, in the middle of the highway, you're like, stop right here. I'm getting out. I'm going into that dilapidated building
Right.
and I'm going to shoot something in there. And I'm like, I don't want to stop here. And you're like, stop the fucking car. And
how beautiful, because I remember that.
Those scenes are incredible.
Because
those scenes are incredible.
It works into that ending where you guys are just, and like we found a Bible, like a burnt Bible on the ground, and
there's a scene,
way the light was coming through the rafters of the ceiling on Patty's face. I remember that so well. Yeah.
Those shots were filmed in Marathon, because the other stuff was in Marfa, but Marathon, that was like on our way back. And in the hotel, that was the Gage Hotel there.
One of the best shots, though. We shot most of that out there in Marathon and in Marfa region, which is the desert of Texas, for those that don't know. But one of the best shots is Patty and I looking over a country fence onto a field, which was about 8 miles from the studio on the way back after a 7-hour drive, and the sun was almost down. And you said, you knew somehow that you were missing a shot.
Yeah.
And you said, pull over on this dirt road right here, that fence right there. And I had to turn around.
Dwight was like, we're almost home, Jeff.
I know. Patty, you were at least nice about it. I remember Dwight, I don't know if you said anything, but like you made noises.
Because you go, put on this. You were like, you even dressed me. You're like, put this on, go stand there, you know.
And what was great about that is that I remember I have such a vivid recollection of that entire trip, because that really was such an important step for me and what I did afterward. And I remember you got out of the car and I was like, we need something for the mood music wise. And I remember you put on Bob Schneider's what's the Patty, is it Patty Griffith or
I Can't Change Your Mind,
which I to this day still think is one of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my entire life.
Well, it is.
First take.
Put a link to that too, P.
Okay.
Like and I remember playing that, and then you guys just chit-chatting about fucking whatever, and the light was just right, and it was beautiful. And that's right, that was like 4 miles away from the studio.
It's a gorgeous scene, and it just goes to show that when you're with someone who understands their craft and they say stop the car, just stop the car. Get out of the car. I'll still be a little grouchy about it, but still stop the car. You know what I mean?
It's interesting because I feel like we've been through it on both ends, because when we did the Grand Canyon video, which was for a major label, that we've never really talked about it at length, but that was a very, very frustrating experience for me.
You and I have talked about it. We talked about it in El Paso. I will say this: a lot of people really like that video, so you salvaged.
All I see
what was a great idea to begin with.
I mean, literally the night
they forced you into.
Shall we talk about what that idea was, though, too?
Yeah, we should, but I'll just say this right now. Literally the night before, I didn't sleep the night before because I was too busy having to redo my entire concept from beginning to end to somehow make it work with 2 people instead of 30.
Right. The original idea was a 30-person color pillow fight, right? Where they end up.
Well, I feel like your original idea was like at least 100 people.
Well, that was my original. Yeah.
It was supposed to be Braveheart. Like that's right. That's how I pitched it to the label. I was like, it's Braveheart, but with like a slight, and like, and to be fair, I learned a major lesson on that video.
Don't trust them.
Well, it was that, and also I should have said no to you from the get-go. Like I really should have, because I knew that it was going to be hard for them because they promised it, and I was like, no, like it's not. I hadn't really worked with a ton of labels at that point anyway, but the sheer size of what we were talking about and the fact that they were not sweating it at all, I should have known better. And so I learned a huge lesson then, because my gut from the get-go was like it was off, and I should have I should have just been like, it's not going to work out the way you're envisioning it and I'm envisioning it and Patty's envisioning it, because no way they can pull it off.
It's a very common thing that we've talked about when we have other major label artists on here, which we've had quite a few, and the compromise of art and commerce and everything like that. And it's interesting, I bet you, for people to know that even happens in the video world, that your concepts are whittled down by budgets and incompetency and everything else that comes
People
with working with a major label.
Yeah.
Until,
that's honestly,
until,
that's 90% of it.
For sure.
Is people being like, it's done, don't even worry about it, and then the day comes. It really
I think it's
breaks
so
down your
easy in the
trust
corporate
factor.
world to pass the buck. You know,
Yeah,
it's someone
Mhm.
else's fault.
Yeah.
Always.
well, have you changed how you work with? I know you don't even like to do many major label videos anymore, but
Mhm.
have you changed the way you work with them? In other words, you go, I can't trust you to cast, I cast. Like, have you kind of taken control
Yeah.
of major label situations and just said, I don't work any other way than this?
Yeah, because there were two videos that really shifted my mindset, and they were two, like, I don't consider your video a failure. I just consider it, I think it's half of a great. I walk away from that video, I'm like, cool, I met Kelsey, my girlfriend. You know what I mean?
know.
And I think she's great in it, and like I do think the video's fun. I
called that before it happened.
I know you did. I loved that song so much, and I love you guys so much, and I love your music so much, that I walked away from that when it was done kind of disappointed in myself, because I was like, shit, you know? And it's like, I also, at the same time, I was like, well, I did the best I possibly could have given the circumstances. And the fact that it turned out okay, I was like, well, in that respect, I was like, I knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
That's
a shit
that's
show.
your skill level. That's your skill level, though,
Yeah.
too.
And you learned a huge lesson, and it's bettered you.
It has. But then a couple of years later, it's funny because it happened again, but it happened it was a smaller budget, like a really small budget, but it was a complete catastrophe, and it was for Mizio.
Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And that one was the same deal, but worse, because I had pitched them.
Same label.
Really? Oh, yeah.
RCA.
That's right. So I had pitched them, I think, 6 treatments, which no one apparently cares.
Does that.
But like, yeah, no one does that, because treatments take fucking forever to do.
Right.
And you're not getting paid for them. And so it's like days figuring out kind of what is even interesting you. And then, okay, you have an idea, and then spending a couple of days workshopping to figure out how it's going to fit within the song. And you got to type it out and blah, 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 blah. I did that 6 times. And each time it was like, it's good, but it's not great, or it's not exactly what we're thinking. And then like I didn't even come up with a 7th one. I was just like, they're like, well, do you have anything else? And I was like, I don't know. I have this idea, not even an idea, but an image of a kid in an astronaut suit. And that could be a kind of weird visual somehow. And I remember the guys like latched onto that. And I don't know what I was thinking, but it was a complete misfire. And like, I finished it and I was like, this doesn't work at all. But I was just like, well, but here it is. And we all knew it. Like, we knew it instantly. And I knew it from the get-go. But either way, I'd spent so much time working on it, not only with all the treatments and then actually filming it and doing it. And there was no budget. So it was like a really hard shoot and everything. And then when it was done, I was just like, this is no good. I don't want to do stuff like this anymore, where I have to, it's like, if you don't like my first treatment, then I'm not your guy. And that's what I learned.
Yep. And that's how I take projects. I say, this is how I see it. If you don't see it that way, see you later. I have zero interest in working on something that doesn't understand what I do.
Yeah. And like, and one of the major things was getting, honestly, it was getting to a financial level where I could comfortably say no.
Where you could say no to things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That is true.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming that.
But
Do
that
you
one,
still-
that wasn't that. That was just, it was, I knew them and I wanted it to make it work for them, but it was just it was a total disaster.
Well, let me say something about that video, because obviously I'm intimately involved with them, so I saw that as it was going too.
But
Yeah.
that wasn't a released thing. That didn't come out.
No. But I will say some of the shots are really beautiful in that and really cool. And
Yeah,
I
some of the
said,
shots are, but
yeah, but what I said was, and it turned out to be true. I said, because and Patty and I can attest to this, we won't do videos with anyone else. So you'll just have to come out of video retirement when we need to do videos, because we just don't. We've worked with other directors at labels, and maybe worse than video departments are video directors. They are some of the worst. They're terrible at their jobs. So many of them that are name guys that do legit videos are fucking awful.
Because they're playing the game and they're just like sucking.
They're
the
sucking the
label's
corporate
dick.
teat. Yeah, they're turning in the budgets that are exactly the way the label likes, down to the item, but they're really just kind of paying themselves.
Right.
They have their same crew of people that gets paid. They do a sort of loose, crappy narrative around their theme, edit it together. You yell at them and tell them it sucks. They re-edit it till you go, fuck it, I don't care.
Right.
And then you turn it in, and then the label goes, oh, it's just fine. Which is what happened on the Missio video. After you didn't, it was still a piece of shit video.
Yeah.
The one they did after and spent more money on. And what I said to them when they sent me your video was, hey, tell Jeff to pull the narrative, to take all his cool shots, and to cut together a badass looking video. That's it.
Right.
And leave it as that, and don't spend any more money.
Yeah.
And you can ask Matt. His lesson on that was, I should have just done that, because it doesn't matter. It would have been a better looking video. It's not going to make sense anyway.
Right.
And it would have been done.
Yeah.
Because how long was the delay? It was like another 4 months before they got a video out on the back of another.
And they spent
another one
on
single.
it. Like, I mean,
80 G's.
I know. I wasn't going to say, but yeah.
I'll say it. 80 G's, dude. That's what labels are spending on fucking videos. Which is insanity.
That's insane
to me.
That's a crazy amount of money for a music video. Like, that's 90s era money for a music.
I mean, 80 G's. I want videos for every song on my record.
Right.
And I want them done in 2 days, because let's just get out there and do it.
Yeah.
And it can be. You can do brilliant shit where the director makes plenty of money for his week of work and everyone's happy, and not do that.
I just, I've had enough failures that, like, what I learned is I was just like, I really want to make, and this is going to come off like pretentious holier than thou, but like, I really do want to make stuff that like matters to me. And I know they're just music videos, but like, I feel like I've made a few music videos that like I'm really fucking proud of, like that I think are pretty powerful videos, and they're music videos, but like I think they have an emotional resonance to them, and that's something that I'm always chasing. And I think once I got a taste of that, I was like, I can't do I can't do a fun video, because not that I can't do it. It's just videos take so much time and effort that I better fucking care about it, and I better be interested in it if I'm going to put that much effort into something.
Let me ask you this, and I will admit to doing this myself, so that hopefully you'll feel more comfortable admitting it if you do.
Are you talking about sucking dick?
Do you suck dick anymore? No. Do you still take projects for the money? Because I do. I have kids, I have things, and there are times when I get a call and I'm like, I am not going to be pleased with this project. This is going to be a pain in my dick, but this pays for private school for the kids and college for the next year and a half, 2 years. I'm going to take this gig.
Yeah, because to not do that would not be, if I want to make a living doing this, I'm not at a level where I can say no, but I still got to be smart about how I do everything else. And how I've been smart about it is also I say no to music videos a lot, and I've moved more into documentary stuff and documentary format music videos, because they're faster to do. I still think you can leave an impact by doing it, and I get to keep all the money.
They're interesting to watch.
They're interesting to watch, and frankly, chasing something that's real and honest. If you have an artist who's just genuinely interesting on his own, you know, then what else is there? It's right there.
Well, I think that's a good way to get into talking about the Missio documentary. I mean, I think
it is.
I think that we were your template maybe for documentaries, because again, the stuff that Patty will link to has a documentary element to it, as well as some cut together kind of teaser song things. It's kind of a hybrid, and that's what you're talking about, taking documentary footage and turning it into a video. As opposed to going, here's the narrative, here's the video. That's kind of my point about that other one that you bailed on. Would have been just finish it with the footage you have and make it work.
Right.
And it still would have been good. So the Missio documentary, for those that haven't watched it, it's a hour and a half long piece that Jeff shot on the band and myself, between Tornillo, Texas, outside of El Paso, and my studio in Austin. And some on tour recording the record that's already out now with songs like I See You and stuff like that on it. Talk to us about how that came about. And Patty just watched it last night, so I'm sure she has plenty of things to talk about.
Fresh
in your brain.
Let me tell you this. It's incredible. I watched it. I'm in the goddamn thing, and it blew me away. I got teary several times. Sometimes on the shit I was saying, which is weird as hell. That
because this is the first time we've really had a chance to talk about it since it's been out. So I am curious to know. We'll get to that, but it came about because I think the year prior, I had done a series of like little 5 to 10 minute video documentary pieces on Missio, and it was called like the Skeleton series.
Right, which I also did. I was around for those too.
Yeah. And so those we really liked how they turned out. And the guys were really honest on camera, and we had developed a rapport. And so they're like, well, just come back out and we'll do another one of those. And so it started as supposed to be not a puff piece, but like just a very short 5 to 10 minute behind the scenes thing. Try to make it as a little more interesting and honest than your normal behind the scenes thing. But that was kind of it. And so I got there, because I knew all of you, and I had already been out. I'd been out to Sonic Ranch once before, and I had loved it out there. So I just decided to come for the full 2 weeks, just because I wanted to hang out. I wanted a nice little vacation. It's so isolated out there that I was like, I'm just going to come hang out, and I'll just shoot the fucking shit out of it, and then we'll see what happens. And then what happened was things started happening instantly. Like, I don't want to say unraveling, but like just very interesting, dramatic shit started happening almost like day one. And
for sure.
And then it just kept going for the full 2 weeks.
So when did you know it was a documentary in your head?
The night that you had the conversation where you told Matthew and David, you guys are a failure as a band in terms of the major label business model. And it was a very specific thing you said, because when you said it, I was like, well, that's about as honest as you could ever hope to be, in a loving way, but in a brutally honest way. And I remember I wasn't even, like, the audio is kind of shitty in that portion. Because again, I wasn't planning on doing that. I thought I was going to do interviews and that's it. So I didn't even have an on-camera mic or anything like that because I didn't anticipate.
That's why there are captions occasionally and stuff
yes,
like that, right?
Exactly. Because that was not the game plan. And I remember I wasn't even filming you, Dwight. I was filming Matthew when you said that, so you can only kind of hear it off camera. But the honest reaction is in the video where his face is just like,
yeah.
Right.
Kind of
he's like, you can see it like sinking in, like,
yeah. And when you said that and I saw that reaction, I was like, well, we have to unpack this now.
Mm-hmm.
And then more shit's happening. And then
I love unpacking things.
Yeah. And that's just, and it kind of started there. But like, again, we did that. And then, they went on tour. And then you guys went back into the studio like 3 months later. I started editing in that 3-month period thinking, okay, I talked with them. I was like, it's not going to be a 5-minute thing. What if it's a 15-minute thing? We tried that. And then it was like, way too short. Okay, what about a 30-minute thing? We tried that. And it was like, it felt even shorter as 30 minutes somehow.
Wow.
And then we pushed it to, and then at that point I got it all the way to 45, and we were like, it feels still really short. And what
like
is 45
unresolved
minutes? Yeah, what's 45 minutes? It's nothing. And so we just decided, I think that's when they were like, we'll come back into the studio. And then more shit happened in this, like even more dramatic stuff happened on that second round of shooting.
The most dramatic
stuff. Yeah. And then, with Matt's sobriety and everything, which was a big shocker. Certainly to me, I don't know.
When did you know? How far before me and David did you know that?
He texted me. I was on a shoot in Utah. Like, this was like a couple of days before we went into the studio. I was on a shoot in Utah backcountry. I was like backpacking. And when I got back to like civilization, I got a message, like a really long message from him. And I have had my own struggles with sobriety. I haven't had a drink in 8 years.
Yeah, you've been sober for a long time. Yeah.
When was that? When you were backpacking? When was?
When did we go back into the studio? Because it was like a couple of days before then. I can't remember the exact date, but
no idea. Spring sometime.
Yeah, sometime in the spring because the weather was all right. But he texted me because we kind of share that thing, and I remember I went to have coffee with him one time when he wanted to quit, but I don't think he had yet, and I could tell he was really struggling, and I tried to talk to him about it, but I walked away from that coffee being like, I didn't do a good job there. I didn't know what to say.
Right.
I could only supportive and listening, or what? Yeah,
but I also felt like he was wanting advice in that moment that I wasn't equipped at that point in my life to give him. Mm-hmm. I should have just told him my experience and be like, and then I should have just told him, you really have to want to quit. Like,
yeah, that's the trick, right? You have to want to be done.
Yeah. Like, it's not going to work unless you truly have the conviction to want to quit.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, he had texted.
Do you know when I found out?
No.
When I found out? When you sent me the fucking clip.
No.
Yeah.
Well, and even then, you're not done. Like, there's a moment in the film where Matt says something to the effect of, at the end of my alcoholism, ... or something. Yeah. And Kevin and I watched it yesterday. We both looked at each other like, it doesn't end.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, like, it's not a thing that just ends.
And that's an interesting, you're so right, because, it became, that became a very interesting thing to me. Because I mean, look, I've watched the documentary. I'm sick of the documentary.
Sure.
I've seen it too many times. So that moment was always interesting to watch back once you knew the sobriety thing or him falling off the wagon, and then knowing that he was drinking. I don't know if he was drinking during that interview or not, but I mean, he says he was drinking throughout the entire time we were in El Paso. I never saw it, but you know,
the Tornillo footage, watching with that lens that I knew was coming, watching the coffee cup always being around him, and watching how silly he was being, and he's not always that silly.
Yeah.
And then thinking like, oh, he was ripped up right there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it either, you know?
Yeah.
Fascinating stuff.
It's because that's how it is. Like, I was a closet drinker. Like, I had a really, really, really bad problem, but I was able to hide it from almost everyone until the very, very end. And then it got
that's the thing about addiction, is you are great at hiding it.
Yeah.
Great at it.
And he and I are so similar in how introverted we can be that it's not like he's a jovial drunk to begin with. You know, it's not like he's putting his boxers.
No, he's
on
doing
his
it to disappear. He's doing it to disappear.
Yeah, yeah. So I didn't know.
Seeing that journey in the film is so powerful. It's much more powerful than the message of, yes, I'm an alcoholic and I'm not drinking anymore. You know,
yeah.
Like it's such a powerful thing to hear and to see someone struggling with the addiction instead of just, you know, being done with it.
Yeah.
And talking about it like it was in the past. Like, it's a struggle. Even if we're sober now, it's a struggle now.
And I knew he was it's a testament to him, because I knew he was nervous about doing it, but I also knew that he wanted to do it. And I knew, because I mean, you know, for him, he had, you know, like he says in that interview sequence, he's like, you know, look, I think the most powerful thing he said in that moment is when he was like, I don't want to be a liar. And I was just like, that really kind of sums up a lot of what addiction is, because you're doing so much to cover up all the flaws and all the things you're doing to feed your addiction. That really registered with me, because then he talks about how he was intoxicated for the Skeletons video when he's promoting sobriety. And I didn't know that either. And I was like, oh my goodness. That was really shocking, because, you know, I directed those and I was there for those too. And I was like, oh my God, poor Matthew.
Oh, no.
When you think about when you're being a sober person and you're a singer and a writer, it's a really dangerous place to be, because, you know, his entire first record is about getting off the hooch and being a better person and everything. And then you have because I noticed, you know, in the comments of the doc and stuff, if you read through some of that stuff, there's some people that are pissed off at him. There's some people that are also recovering addicts that are like, we get it, you know, just keep trying. And there's some other people that are like, you're a hypocrite piece of shit. And
that's fine.
Of course, that's keyboard warrior stuff, but it's tough, you know.
It is tough, but it's just like it's not that I have zero tolerance. It's just that, you know, those comments that you can read on YouTube or wherever, on Twitter, for someone to call him a hypocrite for being honest about his own failures.
Totally.
As if that person behind that keyboard writing that comment doesn't have any. It's which is in and of itself a hypocritical thing to do. It's just this endless cycle of like, I've just gotten to a point where, because I used to struggle with like negative shit like that. I don't know if you guys have struggled with that too, and I'm sure you have. You're far more public.
The negative comments are louder and they stand out, and I remember them so much more than the positive ones. I'm like, oh yeah, positive, good, bad. Yeah, that's the one I believe. I'm a failure. I'm stupid. You know.
Right. Have you ever gotten to a point though? I know for me, a turning point for me, I was like, well, you know what? I'm just gonna start fucking making stuff that matters to me, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to make it as good as I think it can be. And if someone doesn't like it, if I can just get it to a level to where I'm proud of it, when you put it out there, if you want to go down that rabbit hole of reading what people have to say about it, you kind of, if you're proud of it, then all of a sudden you can kind of, it makes you kind of bulletproof.
Yeah, it matters less. If you're trying to please other people, you'll never, first of all, you can't please everyone. And if you're trying to please other people, you won't be satisfied with your work. You won't be proud of yourself. But if you aim to please yourself, then what other people think matters less. If you love it.
It does. And then you can just take the positive stuff and be like, oh, that registered with someone, or they related to that.
Yeah.
And then the negative comments are like, well, you're an angry person to begin with. Why would you write a whole paragraph on YouTube about why you didn't like this?
Yeah, all that's sad for that person. Yeah. It's also just like, I've realized it's all projection. You know, if someone's pissed at Matt for whatever, they're clearly pissed at themselves, and they're unable to accept the flaws in themselves and the mistakes that they've made.
Yeah.
So they're just projecting it onto somebody else.
Because like what you just said, isn't that so strange? I just think it's so crazy for someone to get mad at someone for relapsing.
Totally.
Like what a wild thing to get like really pissed off at someone about.
Well, and publicly admitting it and saying I'm fallible, you know?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, that was he was nervous about that, but he did it, and he spoke so both eloquently
from
and
the
just
heart.
very
Really
very from the heart. Yeah. And I was very grateful for him to do that, because I didn't really have to prompt him to do it. It just kind of happened.
Well, let me ask you this. How did you get to be, I don't know if you actually are even aware of this, but I think Patty will agree. You're incredible at asking questions that guide the interviews to an interesting place. A lot of people like the things I had to say on that documentary, and Matt calls me a wise old owl now and shit.
Yeah.
And partly as an insult and partly as a compliment. And but I always say, like, Jeff asks me shit that makes me say rad stuff. Like, you're good at directing questions.
Well,
and let me tell you, most people are not.
No.
When they ask you a question, it's like, so Wind and the Wave, where'd that name come from?
Yeah.
And you're like,
You know where I learned? That's like, this is why I say, like, that first thing that we did together meant so much to me, because it really was the first in-depth interview thing I had ever done where the two of you had said, well, let's just block out like a 4-hour period to like just talk, because I'd done a couple interviews before then, and it was like, okay, you got 20 minutes. And it's like, what are you going to cover in 20 minutes? So you get those things like, okay, what does the band name mean? And blah, 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 blah. And so, but yours was the first time where I got to really just sit and talk, and it became more of like a conversation. Mm-hmm. And because the two of you were so willing to be honest and be vulnerable, and I knew that going into it, because that was the goal. We had talked about it before. It's like, let's talk about real, honest stuff. Like, you guys were both very adamant that you didn't want it to be a standard Puff record label piece. And so I think I had written up questions, but then those are always just a jumping off point. But I learned in that one, I think we did 2 rounds of interviews, and I learned everything I've ever used since then in those from that.
Really? What did you learn? How do you interview?
Because what I learned is that it needs to be a conversation. Like it can't be these pointed questions that only allow for a very short response. Like you need to give them not close-ended but open-ended questions.
I think,
and you need to ask them in a very conversational way. Like, you know.
Well, the thing that makes it conversational is that you listen. Like
Yeah.
you don't
No,
just ask
that's
the
yeah.
yeah, like you don't just ask the question and then wait for them to finish the response and then move on to the next question you had planned. You
Right.
listen to the response and see if there's anything in there to expand upon, to
Yeah,
go
because
to go somewhere with that.
that's because I mean, yeah, that's what a conversation should be.
Mhm.
You know? A lot of times it's not.
I will say though, you have this knack of asking questions and then disappearing into the wall again.
Yeah.
Like maybe that's what the great documentarians can do, but I didn't notice you in El Paso. I don't remember you
Yeah.
being there. Is that rude to say?
No, that's the point is like,
I don't remember you having dinner with us. I don't remember
Yeah.
you hanging out with us.
yeah,
I don't remember you.
that's
I don't remember doing the.
That's why it's fun. Like, I feel like because I've worked with you guys so much, and when I really get to hang out with you guys, it's usually in some type of working capacity. I don't know. Like, honestly, it's nice to have a conversation like this where we can just talk like normal. Because like, even when I get to chit chat, like during the documentary, when we get to goof off or whatever, I still like am strapped with a camera on, and I'm constantly keeping my eye out for where, like, as you guys are talking, I'm listening to make sure, do I need to start recording now because something interesting might come up in like the next 2 minutes?
Or am I going to record 30 minutes of nothing?
Yeah, which also happened
Right.
a lot.
Yeah.
And it is like it's an interesting thing that I have interesting relationships because of that. Like with you guys, even with Matthew and David, where it's just like, I consider you guys good friends, but at the same time, 90% of the time, I'm working.
You're the fly on the wall.
I'm the fly on the wall, so I kind of have to be a little bit where I don't want to engage too much because I'm doing a job.
Because you don't want to be a subject in the film.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Well, and again, so many camera people, especially because, everybody has camera people in the studio now. Everybody.
Yeah.
Most of them are in the way at all times and annoying and making noise and bothering me. That's literally so I don't know how you figured out how to disappear, but you're really good at it. How many total hours do you think you put into that documentary? I'm just curious how long it takes to do an 1.5-hour documentary.
3 months.
Of every day?
More or less.
Wow. So
3
kids,
months.
if you want to make a 1.5-hour documentary, plan on, and plus shooting, which was a total of about 3 months.
Shooting,
that's a half of your year of your life.
Collectively, in terms of days, shooting was actually the smallest amount of it. The reason it took so long, I mean, documentaries always take, especially a feature-length documentary, they always take longer because you never really know what you're going to get. But if you're going to make a feature documentary, you at least usually go in with like an arc of like what you're hoping to accomplish, and then you work within that. When things start going, you can always go back to your arc and be like, well, here's where I'd like to end up, but here's what I have.
But you didn't have
this
that.
This one became a documentary.
I literally made this backwards.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it took significantly longer. And it was, I mean, I'll be really honest, it was not fun to do. It was the hardest thing I've ever put together, not because of the length, but because you're doing a couple of things. You're trying to tell a story with the footage that you have, what you were able to capture on camera. On top of that, everything that's happening on camera needs to be interesting in some facet. Even if it's boring, it needs to be boring for a reason, like, oh, what a boring moment. But it can't be boring because I didn't do my job well. And so you're just constantly juggling all these things. And then the fact that I didn't really know how to lace it all the way through, it just took a really long time. And I got to about the 40, from the moment, there's like a title card halfway through the movie, like almost right in the middle at 45 minutes, where it says they go to New York, and they're told to continue writing. I spent about a month figuring out what the next scene was going to be. and I tried everything.
What is the next scene? I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's like a phone call with Matthew where he's just kind of venting about his frustrations with the label, and then it goes into
Sure.
3 months later.
Hmm.
But I didn't, and that sounds so simple, like, and it looks logical now that it's there.
Sure.
But that took
You made it look easy.
It took about 3.5 weeks to figure out that that's what it was supposed to be. Because I tried everything else.
Insane.
I mean, I tried multiple other scenes, like a ton. Like I literally tried everything else, and then I just and like I had 4 hard drives, like probably 30 hours of footage, and I combed through everything, and then I just found that shot, this black and white shot pushing in on their faces, and I found
that one.
and I found that audio clip, and I, in a total desperation move at like 4 a.m. after like working for 15 hours, I put those two together and be like, I don't know, maybe that's something. And it worked. And then that opened up the second half of the movie.
Is that the one that goes into the chaos where they start talking about everything and all their voices are overlapping?
That's
a different place.
That's later.
I love that.
Yeah, that was cool. That was another thing.
Where they're having the fight with management and everything, and they're just like, I love that. That was really good.
And that was another. that was the other huge component that was really, really hard to balance. Is that to be perfectly candid, they were having issues with not only label but management and things like that. People who I work for, like a lot.
Me too.
Right. And so I didn't want. I had a really tough goal of being like, I want this to be as honest as it needs to be,
without naming names.
Because I don't want to.
And you did a great job. You did a great job of it.
Well, it worked out, and it worked out real well when they told me that they left their label, because then I was like, great, that's what I was aiming for. I was like, let's just make it a nameless label thing. Mm-hmm. We won't say who's who, and it'll just be a you versus them type thing. And so when they told me they left, I told them, I think I responded with like, thank God or something, because it really, for me, saved it.
Yeah.
Frankly, for me too, I was grateful you included this one scene where I say, I'm not sure you should be going down this path with management right now. I don't think it's the right time. And I was being real. That was an honest assessment from me. But it made me feel like, okay, I just wanted everyone over at that office to know that I wasn't saying this is what should happen.
Right.
You know, just when you're involved personally too, you want to be like, I want to make sure my side's there and they don't think I was a part of that.
No,
I wasn't.
That was important for me to convey that. Like, frankly, I knew that because I didn't want, and because that's what it was. Like, and I didn't want it to come off any other way than that.
Well, and also it's not a black and white situation. It wasn't black and white. So it was nice to have another perspective in there.
That whole
so my wife's, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, that whole kind of second half with you is very interesting to me personally, because I don't know how successfully it comes across in the documentary, but I sure tried with what I had, because I felt like at that point you were getting nervous. Were you?
Oh, that the record wouldn't even come out?
Yeah. And I think you say as much in the documentary, but you don't say it super explicitly, but you're like, because I have read a couple of comments and some people have given you shit in particular for being like, there's like, what is this guy, telling Matthew not to do that ballad, not to do Love Me Whole.
Right.
Which to me, when they were like, we should call it Love Me Whole, I was like, that's so fucking perfect, because that's the one he told him not to do. So for me, that was great.
Well, I didn't say not to do it. I said not to do it for that record.
Yeah, because he did say, I'm going to do it whether it's on this record or not. And you were like, I know, and you should.
You absolutely. And you were very clear about that. But what I thought was so fascinating about it is that you said it, it was just a very honest look at like, and I made sure to include both sides of your thinking on that, because you're like, not a lot of people listen. You're going to burn a slot. you're not going to play it live. But at the same time, I wanted to make sure that you were all for those wild card things. And you said that, but you were like, I can't remember what you said exactly, but you're like, I've seen this happen where it's just a writing circle over and over and over, where if they don't deliver hits, then they're going to be in real trouble. And I think I don't know what your mindset was at that moment, but to me, it felt like you seemed nervous to me because you were really pushing for them to like go for singles.
Well, I'll tell you what we didn't have at that point. We didn't have ICU and we didn't have Rad Drugs.
Yeah.
And those were the two things that they said, okay, we'll put this record out.
Yeah.
We just didn't have them. We didn't. We had some great songs, but we didn't have those.
They talk about not having room for error. Like if one song doesn't go, the record's done.
Right. And I just thought that was so fascinating that like, because, for me, I love their slow shit,
Of course, sure.
I like that. So I'm in the camp of like, I want Love Me Whole on there. But
that's not the game they're in.
But that's not the game. And that's what made it so fascinating to me. I was just like, wow. Like, that's honestly one of my favorite moments because I was just like, wow, that's real hard shit and some real hard decision making where you're clearly someone who cares a lot about guiding them in the way to where they can still be as authentic to themselves as they can be, but you're still also kind of looking out for them to make sure that they can have a success, the best potential to have a successful record, the best shot,
Well, within the major label system.
Yeah,
and that's a different thing.
Right.
And also the context that's not in the film about that was so many conversations with the three of us, with me going, what do you want?
Yeah.
What do you want? And their answers being to be the biggest band in the world.
Yeah.
Okay. Then this ballad cannot happen because that ain't the way.
Right.
That was really it.
When you're the biggest band in the world, then you can do the ballads, all the ballads.
Yeah, because there's a part of them that wants to just do the art, and there's a part of them that wants to be the biggest band in the world. Yeah. And that is a really rough intersection creatively.
It is, and it was interesting to hear some of the responses where people have that. And look, I had it when I was younger too, where it was just like, well, you should just be honest to yourself and you should just blah, blah, blah. But it's like when I hear people saying that in regards to this documentary, I'm like, but that's what the whole documentary is about.
Yeah, I was going to say they're disregarding every other time I say, let's do something that you love.
Right.
And that's all that matters. Because that's the context I'm talking about. If you want to be the biggest band in the world, it doesn't mean we can't do a single that's also very much from your heart, like ICU.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you literally, that whole mountain sequence where you talk about Bob Schneider and being authentic to yourself and everything, for anyone to say that you didn't care and that's like your main goal is always going to be that, and then operating within the major label system, but trying to stay as true to that as you can. I don't know.
The overall message is so great though. Like, you've already made it. Forget this idea of success and notoriety. The experience is what you have. The memories, the family that you surround yourself at the end of the day,
Yeah. That registered with me.
I'm glad that's what you took out of it.
That's the thing that you're left with at the end of the documentary. It's the road you take and who you choose to walk it with. That's it.
And that was so meaningful to me specifically, Dwight. Like I put together the ending first, like from the train to the last shot of the film. I cut that together first because I knew that's what I knew that was
you wanted to end up there.
I knew I wanted to end there, and I knew I wanted that monologue that he went on to end it, because I thought that was so beautiful. Because, like, one of the main reasons I spent so much time doing this and spent 3 months of my life cutting it together is like 2 months, not even 2 months, a month before we started shooting, I had walked away from a movie and I'd spent
I remember that. Yeah.
and I had spent a year writing a script, and then the movie got funded, and then I didn't like how it was looking once money got involved, and so I walked away, and it was really hard for me. And I was really looking to distract myself. So I think that's why I put so much effort into this, just in filming it from the get-go. And then once I realized I had an opportunity to make a feature, not a narrative, but a documentary thing, I think I jumped at it. And so when you were talking about how it's, you have made it, I thought about it from my own perspective, because I can get so hard on myself and being like, well, I haven't made my movie yet. That's always been the goal. It still is the goal, but I haven't done it yet. And I can have really dark days where that can really get to me. But then what you said at the end has been provided such a healthy perspective, because I make a decent living.
Oh, you definitely have made it.
I
for sure.
I get to direct stuff, and I get paid for it, and I do okay.
And people watch it.
And people actually get to watch. Like, I get people. I make videos.
You're not even in a vacuum.
Them.
Yeah, you're not in a vacuum. Your shit gets watched.
And that's
you've definitely made it.
And that's and
you still have room to grow. To go. You still have a place to go.
Exactly. And it can be very hard. It can be very hard to like keep that in perspective, but it's also that thing where it's just like, it doesn't matter how high up the totem you're going to go. You really need to be doing the good mental, like the therapy and stuff like that, because, when I was 23, if I looked at where I was now, I'd be like, holy shit.
Ditto. Right. Totally.
But now I struggle with, well, you haven't made a movie yet.
That's perspective.
And that's
the higher you get on the pole, there's always another notch higher than you.
Exactly. Yeah.
So instead of looking up where I could be, where I could go, like, we could look down, like, look how far I've come.
Yeah. And that's a major thing I've learned. I just started going to therapy in the past 6 months for the first time. And it's been a really,
it's eye-opening.
It is. It really is. And because you just start, there's been too many sessions where she'll say maybe two things the entire time, two very key things in like guiding me, but I'll say shit that comes out of my mouth, and then I'll literally have to stop and be like, I don't know where that came from.
Sure.
And to know that that's inside you, and yet you weren't even aware of it. It's a fascinating thing. And I think that's why I like interviews so much, and why I let people ramble as much as, or I try not to, intervene with a lot of questions, because people start saying things, and then I think that they have a sense of self-discovery as they're talking, if they're willing to open up in that way.
Well, we'll do one last question. Does this weird time change your perspective on success at all, or what matters to you?
I mean, I think time is an illusion right now. I've been up for like,
or
24
always.
hours. Yeah.
Or always.
I'm resetting my clock right now. Like, I've been up for like 20 hours. I'm trying to like stay up so I can go to bed at a normal hour. It's been interesting because, I'm grateful that I'm not like completely stressed about money at the moment, which is a massive thing considering how many people are living paycheck to paycheck. And I'm really just trying to utilize the time properly, where like I'm writing a new film right now, that this documentary has actually had a profound effect on, and your music, the Wind and the Wave music in particular, has had an integral it's something that I'm not comfortable talking to you about yet, the two of you, but it's a conversation that we're going to have at some point.
Wait, which conversation?
Okay.
I'm going to need to talk to you about a movie I'm writing because I want to talk to you about your music and possibly either using it or using new music or something to that effect and having it be essentially.
Oh, Jeff, please let us do new music for your movie. We would 1,000,000% love to do that. Just
Okay.
count us as a yes,
Yeah,
and then you tell us what you
let us
need,
score the whole
and we'll
thing.
deliver.
We got it.
It's an interesting, because like I don't want to tell you what it is yet because I'm still fleshing it out. But if it's as good as I think it is in my head, it would be a pretty special thing, and it would be a really cool thing to get to work. Like it would be a dream if you guys were wanting to do it, you know. But we'll talk about it later.
Oh, we've already said yes, so you're good on that.
I do just kind of want to like put something behind us, Jeff.
Yes.
I texted you in mid-December and you didn't respond, and it really hurt my feelings.
Did it really?
Yeah.
What did you text me?
I texted
I'm
you
looking it
on
up
December
right now.
13th, and I texted you on December 14th.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
And then
The
I know
last-
that the thing is,
The last text I have from you is October 2nd, 2018.
I will say that maybe you were, yeah, okay. Well, I will say that maybe you were traveling and maybe you didn't have Wi-Fi or good connection because the texts are green. So maybe they never got to you.
Oh,
So,
no. What
I'm
did
willing-
you say?
I said, well, this was after I started taking antidepressants, and I was also like experiencing some adverse side effects from my drugs and I was going through a thing. But I said, do you have any free time? I'm reading this for the first time in several months. I go, do you have any free time? I have money. And something I'd like to work on with you. Small, quick interview style. And anyway, I found someone else to do it. It's totally fine. But in that moment,
Oh my God, Patty,
in that moment, I
I
just thought, oh, he's too big and it's too important for me now. Doesn't have time for my little projects.
I'm gonna screenshot so you know for sure
I
that I'm
believe
not
you.
lying.
I believe you.
I want you to know.
I think it went into the ether. It's happened to me. I've missed some text messages when my phone the battery had died, and they never
Really?
come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just know that the two of you are. There's a handful of people that I will always work with, like hands down, and you're at the very, very, very top of that list. I can't say enough.
Thank you.
I don't want this to be a mushy thing, but like
right.
in terms of like, I think you're both two of the most talented people I've ever met, ever. Like, and that's not. I genuinely, I have a huge amount of respect for you.
And right back at you. There is, if I want something to look amazing and sound amazing and feel amazing, you're the only person I think of. There you go.
I can't tell you how, like, seriously, we'll need to talk about this movie thing because I have been listening to your music nonstop for like the past 2 months. And
a particular album or
all of them?
All of them.
All
you have
of
a favorite out of curiosity?
It's hard to, I honestly, I can't, they're so different. As of late, I've been listening to Human Beings a lot. I've been pulling up. Look, this is weird because I feel this is how I was with Matthew and David when I was doing the documentary. When they're like, after it was finished, they're like, we should hang out, and I was like, I don't want to fucking hang out with you. I'm sick of seeing your faces. Like, I've been hanging out with you for 3 months. I hate you guys. When you asked me today if I wanted to do this, I was like, yeah, I felt very comfortable because I feel like I've been around you guys for the past. This sounds so creepy, but
I've been watching you.
I've been pulling up YouTube videos of your acoustic performances, which I think are just lovely. And I've even like illegally downloaded some of them to put on my phone. 'Cause I don't know where
Good.
else to get 'em.
Amazing.
We
That's
encourage
amazing.
everyone to do that. We encourage everyone to do that.
But I
Just-
ripped them off YouTube, and anyway, it's been the soundtrack for the past 2 months, and it's been good.
awesome. Have you
That's
heard
killer.
we released 3 songs back in February. Have you heard those new ones?
I heard, is it the
Rescue
there's
Me,
one-
Father, and
oh God, Father is just like now
we.
because Pat, I know you're the lyricist, but now did you write about Dwight's experience? Is that about your own? It felt like a Dwight
That-
thing.
So
It's both.
it's both.
It's both.
So
Okay.
the song was originally inspired by my dad and my brother, and then as I was writing it, it dawned on me like, oh, this is also Dwight and his dad. It's actually all the men in my life. It's all the men.
I have listened to that one a lot. And
That's
then
a great song.
what are the other 2? I mean, I've listened to all of them. I literally just go through your
Yeah.
entire Spotify thing and let it play all the way down.
The other one is Does God Love the Unlucky and Rescue Me.
Yes. Yeah, dude. When did you put those out, by the way?
February,
Like-
late February.
Yeah, not long.
Did
Yeah.
you even like?
We just
Did
pooped
you?
it out.
You guys just put shit out?
We just pooped it
They
out.
were in the vault, and we
Put it
just. I will say we're 4 songs into the newest record coming though, so
I saw you post. That's why I commented on it, because I didn't want to be like, "Hey, I'm obsessively listening to all your other shit." But I am very excited to hear what you guys are coming up with. Yeah.
Me too.
we're on a good path finally. Yeah.
Is it?
So
Are you guys at a point where you're just, you do it when you feel like you want to do it, like, or do you go in, you're like, it's time to make a record, and then, or is it like, okay, I've got a couple of things, I got a melody, I've got some lyrics that I like. How does it work?
I'll
A little
speak.
bit of both.
I'll speak for me. Yeah. For me, I have to go. It's time to make a Wind and Wave record, and I have
Mhm.
to do it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you
For Patty,
always
it's-
write. You're always writing, and you're always
Yes,
collecting.
but not
ideas.
always writing. But not always like actively writing towards Wind and Wave.
No,
you
but
know?
you're always logging ideas. to
Yes,
use in the
but at a
future.
certain point, I take those ideas from the journal and my voice memos, and I go start.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
You know,
mm-hmm.
so
And
I
that's
have
basically
started,
when I
and
start.
then
I free write, but I don't sit down to write songs until Dwight's like, Patty, it's time, and then I'm like, oh.
Now,
and then I yell it, and then,
I'm very curious to know, because you've talked at length about it before. You, like Dwight, you're more of like, you come in with like maybe a melody or something like that, and then do you just kind of hand it over to Patty? I know that's kind of how you on your first record. I don't know if that's changed now, but
nope,
Not really.
still the same.
Don't fix what ain't broke.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
There is one idea that I came up with while I was driving in the car and sent it to him, and it ended up.
great.
It's now like a song that has a bunch of jazz chords in it, which we've never done before.
Cool.
we co-wrote it with Jackson.
Mhm.
Really? Oh my god!
Because I couldn't. The chords were too hard. I couldn't figure them out, so he
Like-
showed me what they were.
Yeah, I basically I was driving and I recorded a vocal melody with words already like into my phone, and I sent it to him, and then I was like, "Can you figure out the chord progression to this?" And then he was like, "I think these are all jazz chords. This is weird. I've never done this before." And then he had Jackson listen to it and sit down at the piano, and Jackson came up with the chords.
No shit.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
Oh my
excited.
god, is he going to become the third member of the Wind and the Wave? He's got his own
Well,
band, though, right?
He's got his own shit going
Yeah.
on, but he's definitely getting a writing credit on that song.
That
Yeah.
is so cool.
he's killing it.
Yeah, I see you post like photos of him playing his sets. I think I might actually follow him on Instagram, but like I see him, posting that he's playing gigs now and stuff, and I'm just like, man, that's crazy.
He was gigging basically every week until this all went down. So I'm sure
Yeah.
he's jonesing to be back on it. you
Yeah.
know?
Well, just real quick, Patty, I did want to ask you, because I'm so curious about this. So when Dwight's like, okay, it's time to make a record, and then even if you have like a journal of like, ideas here and there, when you have to sit down, like, I really do think you're, if not the best, you're one of the best lyricists ever.
I agree with that.
I don't mean that in terms of people I know. I mean ever.
Mhm.
I marvel at your storytelling abilities as a writer.
Thank you. I'm going to say
How-
thank you, even though I'm uncomfortable with it.
That's fine, because I'm very uncomfortable with taking compliments too.
Okay.
But like, I've listened to your music so much recently, and I've always thought that, but it is deeply impressive to me how you do that, because it's hyper specific in terms of like the story you're telling, and then it becomes this universal thing out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is that like? And I guess it's a question for both of you. What is that process like to like, and how hard is, because it feels so personal and so specific. Like, is that something that just comes very naturally to you? Is that just how your brain operates in terms of writing?
Well, I do think it's much easier to write about things that I know. I don't always know exactly what I'm writing about when I start writing words.
Mm-hmm.
It's like therapy when something comes out of your mouth that you didn't know was going to come out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like things, sometimes I hear things, and we've talked about this before, Dwight's mush mouth, when we're just like, he's like, we don't have words yet, he's just kind of mushing.
Yeah.
And I'll hear things in that and write it down. I heard it for a reason, or maybe I heard what I needed to hear, and it takes on a meaning of its own, or it moves me, or I have a feeling, and then it triggers a memory or something, so I do write about things that I know for the most part, and most of the songs I write are super personal, but it's important to me to have like a very relatable, universal overall message, even if what I'm writing about is super, like you said, specific and personal.
Is that something that like you start personal and then it kind of reveals itself and you're like, oh, there's the theme that comes out of it,
what's
like
the
afterward?
takeaway? Like what's the takeaway from
Right.
that experience that I have, or this feeling that I'm feeling because of the trigger or the experience or whatever? Like what's the takeaway for me? Because takeaway is probably a takeaway for a lot of people.
Yeah. It's so crazy to me because like, just, I don't know, I feel like you're able to lace like so many different things. Is it human beings? Like you have this great line where it's like, and my band's still on a label, and you like draw it out. And it's such a hyper specific line. Mm-hmm. And yet
at one point Dwight tried to get me to change that.
I think it's so specific that I just think it says so much though, because I was just like, yeah, that's about as honest as you can get as a singer songwriter person in a band, talking about their own insecurities and gratefulness that they still get to do this one more time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's her lines, like even like the neon prayer flags line. Yeah. That's an insane line.
Oh my God.
I was high
it's crazy. And
busy
it's
buying neon prayer flags. Like, what the fuck is that? Those are my favorite lines of hers.
Yeah.
But I will say another layer of when we write together is there's oftentimes that I'll sing Mush Mouths, but I have a particular thing that I've been singing, like Follow Your Heart. Yeah. Follow Your Heart I sang in the Mush Mouth. I'm running out of forgiveness for you was a line that I sang.
Does God love the unlucky? That was a line that you brought to the table, and I was just like, what do I do with that?
And she takes those lines and works them into her world. That's what really freaks me out.
That's crazy. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. There's just so many that.
To me, her best set of lyrics, and we'll end it on this, her best set of lyrics is Happiness Is Not a Place. Because it was a challenge from me for her to write something positive. And so she writes the saddest, most negative verse of all time. I don't want to be here. I don't like doing any of this, but also happiness is pretty great. It's just who you choose to walk it with. And it's like, oh.
But that's so specific to her. And like, it just feels, I don't know. I'm glad to know you guys. Like I really am. I consider.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on our podcast. You're our first guest of season 2.
Yeah,
and we super appreciate it.
Cool.
And let's have sushi once this is all over.
Yeah, I
Deal?
think we need to get a huge get together once we can go and do that for sure.
Okay, let's do it. So I think, what does he do? He leaves the meeting because we haven't
Okay.
done this yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Love
I'm gonna
you.
quit
Thanks,
out here.
Jeff.
All right. Love you
All
guys.
right, thank you, Jeff.
Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you.
Bye. Wait. Bye.
Get out.
Well, that was
Oh,
awesome. And
That's good.
now I feel super loved because he just said amazing shit about us.
Aw.
How exciting. Let's do a movie with Jeff. Let's score
Yeah,
a movie for
That
Jeff.
sounds really fun.
Okay. Do you have any last impressions about the documentary? Because we didn't really get to talk about it.
I mean, do you
Each
think
with
we'll
each
talk
other.
about it again with Matt, or I mean,
Maybe.
I will say I will say, like, I related to the pressure that builds around the making of a sophomore album. I understand that feeling. I loved that at the point where you said, like, there are no bad ideas and you're willing to let the artist try shit and just go there, even if it's too far, you know,
Right.
or if it's not the right move. I don't like that there was a cat there. Like there can't be cats. I don't like cats.
Matt loves animals.
I know.
Something you need to know about him. All animals.
I just don't like cats.
Ducks, whatever. He's in.
Interesting that the producer's job is to balance the artist and the label's wants and needs. And I think at one point David calls you like a master manipulator, and I'm like, yeah, that's Dwight. Like, or that's what the producer has to be. And I was like, yeah, well, that's Dwight.
I feel like it's more of a master motivator, but because I just don't like the word manipulation. But I get it.
There's a negative connotation there, I suppose. But everything in one way or another is a manipulation.
I get it.
I
get it.
I related hard to, like, Matt's feelings, or maybe David was talking about it, like producer critiquing lyrics and vocals. Like when you tell Matt, like, you can do better, you know?
And he asked if there's any way to turn off my mic.
Yeah.
I love that scene. Is there a way to turn off Dwight's mic?
At one point too, he says that his least favorite part about the process is singing. And I'm like, man, I don't feel like I love singing.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, though, just because of the nature of that band, but Matt's an incredible musician.
Yeah.
Like a phenomenal piano and keyboard player.
Right.
Phenomenal. And he identifies
you
as
don't
that
see
first.
that much.
Singing is something he happens to be the best at in that band. Otherwise,
right.
I don't think he would do it.
Right.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. It's powerful to me, and I was really proud to be a part of it. So
I think trust is a big theme in that too. Like, trust in the producer, trusting in each other, trusting in yourself and your own abilities, and trust in the process of the whole thing. You know, I feel like
Yep.
David and Matt have a very similar relationship to what you and I have.
That's one of the reasons I like working with them. And my relationship with them is my relationship with you.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting. You know, it's very similar that way too.
Mm-hmm.
I have the exact same role with them.
It's good stuff. Family.
Yeah. All right. So we've already been on here an hour and a half. Why don't you take us
That's crazy.
out?
Okay. Thank you guys for listening. Please review us wherever you listen to this podcast. And please send us an email. We need your thoughts. We need you to join this conversation. So send us an email to the Dwight and Patty Show @gmail.com. Visit our Patreon. It's patreon.com/the Dwight and Patty Show. And there are 4 different levels where you can become a patron there. And we give you treats and goodies like demos and videos and photos and songs that haven't been released to the public. Let's see, 15% off or 10% off with the code STAY HOME at thewindandthewave.com our online store. I've got some shirts and things for sale there, but you can get an additional discount with that code. And it's supposed to expire today, but I'm going to extend it for another 24 hours. So when this podcast comes out on Thursday, you can still put your order in and use that code. Follow us on Instagram at The Dwight and Patty Show. That's about it. Love you.
Love ya. Bye.
It's the Dwight and Patty Show. The Dwight and Patty Show. It's the Dwight and Patty